Today I'm going to show you how to make this easy lace and wire heart. Think about something sentimental that you might have in your family, such as a piece of a baby's blanket or a part of a bridal veil. These kinds of old pieces you might not know what to do with, but you can upcycle them into something beautiful. This heart is perfect for Valentine's Day and also would be a thoughtful gift for someone you love. Now these are the supplies that we use to get started. I have some remnants of cloth. I have an old blouse and some lace, and these are pieces that were, not even suitable for giveaway. They had some tears, so I cut them up and will use them for this project. Like I always say, sometimes most of the materials that you need for a project you can find in your own home. I'll also be using regular scissors, and I have some aluminum wire. Now this is the kind of wire for electric fences, and you can buy it at the hardware store. It's very inexpensive and it's great for crafting. I also have 3 pairs of pliers. I have a wire cutting pliers, I have a flat nose pliers, and I have a round nose pliers, sometimes called rosary pliers. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to pull out a length of your aluminum wire. Now, it depends on what size you want to make your heart. I'm making mine about that big, and so I'm just going to pull out maybe about 15 inches or so, and I'm just estimating. It's nothing where I'm measuring or anything like that. You want to make sure that you have enough wire for the size heart that you want to make. You don't want to run out at the end of the heart, because we're going to use whatever little tail end of wire is left to form a hook. So I'm going to grip the bottom of the U shape of wire with my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to put a little bend in it. And that's going to be the perfect shape for the bottom of our heart. Once you have the bottom shape, then we're going to need to form the top curved shapes of the heart. And the easiest way to do this is to shape the wire around a circular object such as a bottle. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm taking one side of the wire and I'm bending it around the bottle, and then I'm going to take the other side of the wire and I'm going to do the same thing, bending it toward the center of the heart. And you have to fidget with the wire a little bit. The other end of the wire is kind of in your way, but it's easy to do. And then we're going to just kind of pull it apart and shape it. Now you want to be careful that you don't put any bends or kinks in your wire, because once you do that, they're hard to get out. So you have to be gentle with it, but this wire is very pliable and it's very easy to bend. So do your best to shape it into a heart shape, and like I always say, it doesn't have to be perfect. Where the wires cross at the top, you're going to twist them around each other. So twist one end and then twist the other end, as I did in the video, and that's to secure the heart. I will also then grab my flat nose or my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to position them over my twists, and I'm going to give it a firm squeeze, and that is going to help secure the wire, but it's also going to flatten it out a little bit. I don't want it too lumpy where my wire is wrapping around. So then I'm going to take the other one and I'm going to wrap it again, and I want to make sure that it's really secure, that we don't want it to come loose or anything. And then once again, I'll grab my chain nose pliers and I'll give it a firm squeeze to make sure it is nice and tight and there's no, giant kinks or bumps in the wire. Then we're going to take our wire cutting pliers and we'll cut off the shorter tail end of wire, and we'll keep the longer tail end, and that's what we're going to shape into our hook. So using your fingers and using your pliers, bend the loop over and bring the tail end down over the center of the heart and shape kind of an oval shape. I made like an upside down U shape. And once I'm happy with the shape of my hook, I'm going to take that tail end of wire, and once again we are going to wrap that around the heart. You make sure it's nice and secure. You can hold the heart or the wire with your pliers. Sometimes it's easier to shape a tail end of wire around something if you're holding it with pliers. You can kind of pull it more taut that way, as I'm doing right here. And once you have it firmly around, you might want to pinch it down, make sure it's nice and tight again, and then you can take your wire cutting pliers and you can cut off that little end. And there's our heart. So now that our heart is shaped and we have the hook in place. You can kind of fidget with it a little bit, and like I say, don't overshape it. You don't want to put any kinks in it or, get it into an odd shape that you can't get it out of. So I'm just gonna just bend it around a little bit just to try to make it the way I want it. And once you're happy with it, it's ready to move on to the next step. Again, you want to check that it's really secure. Make sure you don't have any sharp ends of wire sticking out. If you do, grab those chain nose pliers and give it a squeeze. Or you can, snip off any little extra ends if you need to. For the next step, you're going to need a needle and thread, some pins or some clips such as binder clips or clothespins, and you're going to need your fabric. I have a few different types that I'm using, and I'm going to hold each one up and see which I like best. You want to figure out which is the right side and the wrong side of your lace, because there's usually, a right side and wrong side. And here I am just fussing around with them. And then I have this really old piece. I've got like 20 of those at a yard sale, probably 20 years ago for $1.50. And they've just been sitting in my basement. And I had bleached them and starched them and ironed them. And I thought, this is pretty perfect. It does have a lot of larger holes in it, but I think it's going to be just right for my project. So what you're going to do is you're going to position your heart onto your cloth and find like the way that you want to put it on. Find the design. For this one, I'm going to go with a corner because it just kind of really fits onto my heart just right. So what you will do now is you're going to get your fabric shears or your craft scissors, and you're going to want to cut out around the heart, but you need to give it an allowance of about, I'd say at least a 1/4 inch or so around the heart. So you don't want to cut right up against it, because we're going to be taking all that edge and we're going to be wrapping it around the wire and stitching it on. So as you can see, I'm just going to cut some of the larger pieces away, and I'm going to set those larger pieces aside, and I'm going to save them for another craft project. So as you can see, I'm just trying to cut some like larger sized chunks, and I'm going to leave some of the points on the piece that's behind the heart, and later on when I'm stitching and I'm getting close to those extra fabric areas, I'll snip them off, as you will see. So I'm looking to figure out which is the right side and the wrong side of the lace, because I want to make sure that I have the right side up. So actually, when you're laying your metal wire heart on there, you want to lay it on the wrong side. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that little edge that we left on there, that 1/4 inch, and doing just about an inch or two at a time, you're going to very carefully fold it over the wire, and then you're going to want to pin it into place. Now, I usually use stick pins. This lace is very holey, as you can see, so clips would actually be better, but I didn't grab my binder clips. I'll show you, you can also put clothespins on. If you have smaller ones, it works better, but it does the trick. So you want to secure it here and there. You do not need to go and pin or clip the entire thing on, but you do want to make sure that once you have one side pinned or clipped, that you still have some of that 1/4 inch allowance on the other side, that that you have enough material going that's going to go around the wire. Here I'm going to cut a little bit off now. As I said, while I'm working on it, I'll be snipping here and there to get that corner off, and I'll just pin that down. Here's what it's like when you want to use a clip. You can just fold it over and then just clip it on, but they're large and they're clumsy to kind of be stitching with that on, so I'm just kind of holding it in place while I get some pins in. Here again, I'm going to cut some of that extra off, and you want to be careful when you do that you don't cut a little too much. It's better to cut not enough off and then have to cut some more than to make it too small. So once again, I'll put one more clip in, and we're going to get started with our next step, which is attaching our lace. So you're going to take some matching thread, whatever color you like. I'm using like a off-white, and I'm going to snip a length of that off, and I'm going to thread it onto a needle, and I'm going to tie a double knot in the end of my thread. Now, I don't like working with a piece of thread that is super duper long, so when I come to the end of this thread as I'm stitching, I won't have enough to go around my heart, so I will have to rethread my needle twice, maybe even 3 times, depending on how many stitches I'm doing. And I don't mind doing that. I would rather do that than have to pull a really long piece of thread out that's going to get, possibly tangled on itself. And so here I am tying the knot in the end. So it's a double length of thread, and find one end of the heart where you want to start. I'm going to be starting down at the point. And I'm not doing the very, very bottom point. I'm kind of working next to it, as you'll see. So I removed my clips, and I'm going to just use my fingers to pull about, like I said, a 1/4 inch or so over the wire, hold it down with my fingertips, and getting started is the hardest part. The first couple stitches, until you get it on there, and then it goes pretty quick and easy. So all you're going to do is a whip stitch, which is very simple. You're going to just stitch inside the heart, inside the wire. Try to go through both pieces of cloth. Sometimes, like as in this piece, there's a lot of holes, and I'll just kind of be going through, the cloth on one side and a hole on the other, and I'll just keep stitching slowly just down the side. And if it seems like you need to go over a spot, because this kind of lace, it's not all the same. There's bumps, like I say, there's holes, and you may need to stitch it more than once in a certain area. So just do your best and start stitching, and just do a little bit at a time. And again, you're just pulling the needle through and then going up through the bottom. You can do it either way. You can go down from the top down to the bottom and then bring the needle again up and around and go down through the top again. Or I like to actually go like I'm doing, put the needle through the bottom up and pull it up, and then back down to the bottom and then up again. And you're just kind of wrapping that around and around and around. And you need to keep holding the lace on there, and check the other side that you're not pulling it too much from the other side of the heart. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's a little difficult to get started, but once you get started with your stitches, it's just one after the other. And the type of lace is like the most difficult thing, like fidgeting around those holes. And it's just putting extra stitches in here and there. And in the end, the final result is just so worth it. It's so pretty, and it is really easy to make. This is an easy project. And you don't have to be experienced at sewing to do this project. You can be a total beginner. It might feel a little bit like you're fumbling in the beginning with the needle and thread, but the whip stitch is easy, and trust me, you're going to get a hang of it very quickly, and you'll have your heart finished in no time. If you use a color thread that matches your lace, you will not see little mistakes you make. It doesn't matter. So here I'm going to cut a little bit more of that extra lace off. As I said, when I'm working, I'll adjust it, and I'm going to flip it over, take a look at it, see how it's working so far, and I think it looks great. Once I get to the top, I have a lot more there. I'll snip around, and I did a fast video here so you can see quickly how we finish it up. I'm just doing the same thing all the way around the heart. When I get to the part that I have secured down with straight pins, I'm going to remove those pins. Be careful you don't stick yourself. I stuck myself like twice. And just keep stitching around. Now when I got to the top area of my heart where the hook is, I put some extra stitches in there, and I wanted to make sure that all the lace was very secure. And here's where I'm finishing it off, the last few stitches. And if I had areas that were a little thick, like I said, I just put a couple extra stitches in there. And it's handmade. It doesn't have to be perfect. I like it when you can see that it's handmade, that it doesn't look like it was made, in a factory by a machine. A person made this. So you want to tie off your thread when you're finished. Just put a knot in there or two. I usually do a double knot out of habit. And then just take your scissors and snip off whatever thread you have left on there. Then when you're finished, flip it over and inspect your handiwork. I really love this. But you know what? I think I want to do something about that silver hook. So I'm going to get a little bit of white acrylic paint. Just a drop will do, and a craft paintbrush. And I'm just going to go over that very lightly. So I'm going to put a little bit of paint on my brush and I'm just going to dab it on there, and that dries very quickly. So within just like 2 or 3 minutes it should be dry, as long as you don't put it on too thick. You're going to flip it over, do the reverse side, make sure you have paint on the edges and on the inside, and that there's no, big goopy spots hanging down, and that camouflages that silver, and it just gives it more of a cohesive look. Now let's take a look at our heart. I love it. I'm really happy with it, and I'm really excited to make another one, just in time for Valentine's Day, right? So you just want to let that dry for a moment or two, and then you're going to find a piece of ribbon or something to thread through your loop. I have this piece of just like satin cord, and I just threaded it through, and then I'm going to put the ends of it together and then just do that. Make a loop, pull the ends through the loop, and then give it a tug, make sure it's like nice and secure, and then I'll take my craft scissors and I'll cut the ends of the two ends down a little bit just to make it look nice and neat, that they're the same length and that they're not frayed. If you've read my book, Boho Chic Jewelry, you know how much I love sentimental things. And if you've followed my upcycling blog, Dysfunctional Designs, you'll know how much I encourage people to use things like your father's ties, your children's blankets, maybe their baby blankets, and upcycle them into beautiful memento things that you can have for your home and for yourself. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. I'll be back very soon with another really cool craft project that I'm so excited to share with you. See you next time.